Welcome to our session. The coder is dead. Long live the coder. My name is Salla. I work as the community and partnerships lead at Hive Helsinki, and I'm going to talk to you about Hive Helsinki a bit later on. Now, a warning and a disclaimer. I am not a software engineer. I am not a software developer. So I will not go mega deep into technical details or provide you technically detailed answers. However, for the past 4 years working at Hive Helsinki, I've talked with senior software engineers, with tech leads, with team leads, working in companies such as Supercell, such as Oura, Osuuspankki, Volt, Tietoevry, ABB, Nokia, etc., etc. So I feel like I have a pretty good insight on what's going on in the industry right now and what are the type of skills needed in this market, and also how Hive Helsinki could perhaps provide you some assistance and support in your journey in tech. So this is the agenda. This is the stuff that we will talk about today for the next hour or so. I want to give you another disclaimer. It's going to be quite action-packed. It's going to be quite a lot of information. I will try to squeeze in a couple of minutes for a Q&A, but most likely we are not going to have that time. However, I will be in Mimmit Koodaa's event next Friday, the Teknologia Polkuja event, so you can reach me via there. And also Sanna from Mimmit Koodaa is collecting questions in the chat. So we will compile all the questions and we will answer them later on via email. So if you have any questions, any comments, anything you want to share, please put it on this chat so we're able to take note. So that was the disclaimer, the second one. Agenda, what's going to happen in the next hour or so? So first of all, we're going to talk about the title. Why the hell do I name a presentation, "The Coder is Dead, Long Live the Coder"? Then we're going to have a very brief look into the state of tech jobs in Finland. And then I'm going to talk about some perks and risks with AI. Then I'll introduce you to 9 skills I encourage you to develop today and tomorrow and next week and next month. And then lastly, we're going to have a very brief overview into Hive Helsinki. We're going to stay on a high level. So my goal is not to educate you with these exact 9 skills, for example, that I will present to you. But my goal is to spark some inspiration, guide you to the right direction, and give you some insights that I think would be super relevant for you. So that's the goal. That's the agenda. Let's dive into it. Why the title? The coder is dead. Long live the coder. So if you know the saying, "The king is dead, long live the king," you might have an idea of what I'm aiming to reach with the title of this presentation. Let's go a bit deeper into it. So the coder is dead. Parts of traditional programming are becoming automated by AI. I think this is something that everybody is now aware of, at least those who are interested in tech. So we're talking about, for example, writing repetitive APIs, simple test code, etc., etc. So, oh my God, the coder is dead. But then again, long live the coder. So there is a shift towards higher level tasks. I'm talking about system thinking. I'm talking about architecture understanding, product thinking, design thinking, etc., etc. So the focus point of a developers, of coders work are shifting. So an updated way of thinking and working are required. I hope you're understanding. I hope you're getting the point what I'm trying to get across. So in many ways, some parts of a developer's work, we are leaving into the past, but some parts are becoming more important than ever, and the job of a developer is becoming more important than ever. And the key insight already I want you to think and I want you to know is that AI is a multiplier and AI is an enabler. It's not a replacement. I bet so many of you have heard that AI is coming in to replace the jobs of developers, junior developers, and I am here to argue that that is not the case. Now, let's look at the big picture. So, few steps back. The state of tech jobs in Finland, very briefly. So, what's up? What's going on? I bet so many of you have read the news about people being laid off and people being furloughed, and there's chaos and disruption and nobody's getting hired, etc. It's panic, it's worse, it's absolutely awful. Tech is collapsing, everything is collapsing. It's okay. It's actually not that bad. Don't believe all the titles that you are seeing. So let's look at some statistics. Teknologiateollisuus has stated and has surveyed that in June 2025, we had 81,300 people working in ICT. This is a 2.5% drop compared to 2023. Of course, 2.5% out of 81,300 people, that is still a couple of thousand people whose lives have been impacted, but still, it's not the entire industry collapsing. Based on trends that we have seen on the first half of the year, so for 2025 June, Teknologiateollisuus actually estimated that the turnover of IT companies is expected to grow now towards the end of the year. And at the same time, we are reading the news that there are some companies and industries looking to hire so many tech talents. In fact, more than 130,000 new tech hires are projected by 2030. Quite a big number. So we're looking at a bit of a paradox here. On the one hand, there are the hiring freezes in some areas. You've heard about people becoming juniors or interns at a company and their contract is not being extended. But then again, 130,000 new tech hires projected for 2030. So clearly there is a rising demand for talent. And we're looking at talent, especially around AI, cybersecurity, and data. So what we can already project, what we can already predict, that employers are looking for AI literate generalists. So developers who know how to use AI smartly while understanding the bigger picture. So a key insight and a takeaway for you to remember, indeed, jobs aren't collapsing in tech, they are renewing. So a couple of years ago, or actually a bit longer time ago, let's say 2018, 2017, you could get a job if you had coded Python for 4 months. The market was oversaturated, it was overheated. And now we're seeing this both hype balancing, where the value shifts from this, okay, raw coding, I know how to code, I know how to program, to more of this applied problem solving assisted by AI and other tools. So balancing out from a really saturated, oversaturated market way back into the day. So we're finding a new balance here. Now, I mentioned already about AI and how AI is automating a lot of the stuff that developers are doing. But what are then perks and risks with AI? If you're looking to launch a career in tech, or if you are already in tech, what are some kind of things that you should keep in mind when it comes to AI? Because the buzz is there and the hype is there. Let's first look at some perks. So with AI, as said, you can reduce your repetitive tasks. So we're talking about, for example, writing boilerplate code. With boilerplate code, we refer to code that is repeated in multiple places with little to no variation, setting up files, debugging trivial errors, etc. So nice, getting away the manual parts of programming. And actually, before AI, developers spent about 40 to 60% of their time on routine setup and on syntax work. And now that time can be spent on architecture, problem solving, and innovation. Disclaimer, if you are quite critical, you could already notice that this survey was conducted by GitHub Copilot. So always keep in mind of, okay, who are the organizations conducting a survey? Because it could be quite useful for GitHub Copilot to say like, oh, look at all the time that developers now have. So taking everything with a grain of salt always. Insight from this. So your value as a developer is actually not measured how much code you write, what is the quantity of the outputs you have, but how intelligently you use the tools of the modern technology and where you put your focus. Another perk, experiment and prototype fast. Probably you already know this, but AI can produce super fast prototype and alternative solutions. It can even create entire user and customer segments for you that you can test and play with. So now you have the opportunity for many small experiments, fast fails, and you can accelerate the learning and feedback loop. So traditionally, the learning and feedback loop has been a lot about you study something, you apply some changes, you create a program, then you wait for feedback, and then you adjust, etc. But now we're actually taking away all that waiting time. So we have an idea, we can right away build it, we can right away get the feedback, the results, and learn from that way. So really fast experimenting and prototyping. And with AI, I encourage you to focus on creative iteration, on experimentation, and on conceptualization. So AI is super good, especially for early stage startups and for creative brainstorming in any stage of a company that you are in. Creativity is really, really something that you can utilize and enhance with AI. Expand your capabilities as a developer. Probably also you know these things. But with AI, you can operate like a small team. So design, code, document, test, and deploy. Amazing stuff that developers couldn't really do by themselves in the past. You can even build end-to-end products by yourself. So be playful, be creative, and learn. But of course, for production code, and with production code, we're talking about the final, the optimized version of software code that is used by the end-to-end users. This is different. This is different from the development and the testing versions, but the end-to-end users, the final code, for that, you need to be AI literate. You need to assess, you need to verify, you need to debug. You cannot blindly trust AI. So focus on holistic thinking, focus on system thinking, learn a little bit about every layer. So learn about front end and design, learn about data and architecture. Another perk, accelerate learning. So AI can explain, it can guide, it can troubleshoot, it can be a senior developer that really helps you to understand a code base or answers your questions relentlessly. So it gives you lots of suggestions, and then it's up to you for review and analyze, see what fits, what doesn't. So focus then as a perk for AI as a way to accelerate your learning, focus on active learning. Use AI as a mentor. Ask why, ask how, to understand the problem and not just copy paste, give me the answer. So really dig deeper into the stuff that you are collaborating with when it comes to AI. So dig deeper, ask the why and ask the how. Improve your search. Another thing that AI is super, super good in. So it excels really in processing vast amounts of information and enhancing your search. So let's take an example. If you need to locate a very specific functionality in a massive open source project, you can simply describe it now in natural language, in spoken human language, and then you usually find what you're looking for within minutes. So you can really make your search so much more faster with AI. But when you're doing search with AI, what I would recommend for you to do is to ask for context, not just for location. Explain how this module interacts with the API layer, for example. So when you're looking for a specific function, when you're looking for a model, have context around it. So be smart once more when you use AI as a tool. And a key insight and a key takeaway for you already when we're thinking about the perks of AI is that you become a connector. So really pay attention to how knowledge, how decisions, how technical solutions, how data fits together to create value. So now we have an overview of some perks that we have with AI. We can see that improves our search, it can accelerate learning, it can help us prototype, it can help us experiment, it enhances sometimes creativity, conceptualization, etc. And you really need to now have the focus of using it smartly, not just creating long lines of code, not just focusing on the output, but how you become the connector, how you become the person who is able to see the bigger picture. Remember, the parts of developers' work are now changing when it comes to manual work. Now it's more into the higher level thinking. And for you to really utilize AI in a beneficial way, the higher level thinking is what you need to start adapting into it. What about then some risks? Of course, there are benefits, there are risks. So let's go through some of the harmful or potentially challenging, potentially risky sides of AI. Prediction becomes your truth. If you don't know yet how AI, how LLMs work, please start digging into it. I can already give you an overview and tell you that AI doesn't reason. AI doesn't understand. AI just predicts and outputs probabilities, not truths. So there are educated guesses, there are probabilities. And in fact, it doesn't understand your problem. Even though AI is super good in sounding humane, AI is always saying, got it, wow, great question. It doesn't actually understand. So AI just generates text, or in a developer's case, code that is statistically likely to follow based on your unique prompt that you have written, but also on the patterns seen in billions of examples. So in a way, AI is not ever creating anything new. That's statistical likely things to follow based on the prompt that you have given. So keep in this mind always. So don't start taking predictions as your truth and as the final word. So AI doesn't know whether the data that you're using is correct. It's not able to analyze and assess it. It's not able to verify whether your architecture, your technical architecture, where everything is coming together, whether that actually makes sense. And it's not able to test and suggest that, hey, will this solution scale? Will it perform efficiently? Will it be secure? So don't let prediction become your truth. Always have a grain of salt with you. So now your job as a developer or as an aspiring developer shifts even more to understanding the context and evaluating the code. So always apply logic, always apply the context and testing before you trust any results that AI gives you, especially if you're creating something that will be used by end users. So don't let AI lead your development. You should lead the development. You should be the one with the bigger picture, the goals, and the understanding in mindset. AI is there to support and assist you. You create bloated code, another risky thing with AI. So LLMs can create bloated code in large databases because of a few different reasons. And let me actually still explain to you what is bloated code if you are not familiar with the term. So bloated code, as you can probably figure out, we're referring to code and code bases that are unnecessarily long, they're really slow, they're inefficient, they're basically wasting resources, there are duplicates, etc. It's a long wall of code that could have been written in a much more efficient and a much more cleaner way. And bloated code bases are really difficult to maintain. There are so much complexities and so many things that don't actually make sense. So AI can create this kind of coded bloat very easily. First of all, because it doesn't have the contextual understanding. Remember that. So it doesn't understand the overall architecture that you have. It doesn't understand necessarily the design patterns that you have. And it doesn't understand the long-term goals that you have for your project. AI has also the tendency to prioritize speed over efficiency. And also it can create code duplications very easily. So this leads to instances where the code that AI has created can be technically correct, yes, but is it smart? No. It could add way more complexity that there actually should be. It can also lead to inefficient code that requires future refactoring. So that means that you have to go back to the code, you have to revisit it, you have to edit it, you have to make it much more smarter and more efficient. So you're adding on new work for yourself in the future. It can also lead to copy-pasting similar logic in the code base to different parts. So AI doesn't understand what makes sense as a whole. So in your code base, AI is reading everything as truths. It's not able to revisit a function independently. It's not able to revisit pieces of code independently and be like, does this make sense? Does this make sense? What about the goals of the project? When I think in mind the goal of the project, yeah, this doesn't make sense. AI is not able to do that. So it takes everything there is in the code base as a fact, and it can just copy paste code that is actually not that greatly written in the other pieces of the code base. So it just takes what already exists and replicates that. So use AI for well-defined, for small tasks, rather than expecting it to manage entire features of systems or understand the entire system or the goals or the entire architecture. So use it for well-refined small tasks, at least at this stage of AI and its development. Another risk is that you ignore quality. So yeah, AI can write tests that can write code that passes tests, but it runs, it's not always enough. So you might get code that works now, yes, but actually fails when it needs to scale. It fails when there's more load in it. It fails when it needs to be maintained by another developer, or there are edge cases that the AI even failed to imagine. So you ignore quality as well. And with quality in programming, we're often referring to, is the code readable? Is it maintainable by another person than you? Can it be extended and scaled? Does it perform well under load when there's more users, for example? Is it secure? Is it robust? What about privacy, transparency, etc., etc.? So quality is the most important thing when you are creating programs that are maintained and kept for a long time. So learn the inner logic, learn the aesthetics of programming by learning the fundamentals of programming. So give yourself the tools to evaluate the code that AI has written and then test, test, test. Another risk with AI is that you reduce your critical thinking and you start believing the hallucinations that AI gives. And with hallucinations, I'm going to explain that a bit more details in just a second. I know it can sound like a weird word to say. So, depending too heavily and too lazily on AI-generated content without any scrutiny actually diminishes your critical thinking. So you lose motivation, you lose the ability to problem solve, to analyze and create. And guess what? This even impacts your brain and your cognitive capabilities. I bet all of you there listening now have experienced laziness because of AI, or have experienced laziness because of you have a calculator on your phone, so you easily just calculate numbers and patterns, etc., instead of actually doing the calculations yourself. And we are impacting negatively the brain matter. So even some parts of our brains can even shrink. So we are decreasing our cognitive capabilities if we are not using critical thinking and we are using AI too fast, too soon, and too lazily. Hallucinations. So I mentioned this can sound like a weird word, but you've probably noticed that AI, LLMs are very, very good at sounding sure even when they're wrong. And this is what is called hallucination. So generating false information that looks correct, and AI can make it sound correct because it just fits a statistical pattern. So I bet you've talked with AI and AI has said to you something, and then you're like, no, actually that's incorrect. And AI is like, yes, you're right. Thank you for correcting me. Now I have the right details. And you look into it and you notice, no, it's still not correct. So AI is mega good at convincing. AI is mega good in making you feel like that it hears you and it's giving you the right results and the answers. So don't believe hallucinations. Struggle is really good for learning. Struggle is really good for analytical skills. So practice AI-free exercises. Approach always AI with a critical lens. Another risk is bias. So all AI models are trained on human-created data sets. And yes, you know, data that is created by humans that has bias, those have unsuccessful habits, untrustworthy examples, AI. So once more, it's as AI reproduces something that is statistically common, but not necessarily something that is right. So you can end up doing a bunch of harmful things, reproducing existing biases, not having new thinking, reinforcing harmful or inefficient paradigms, etc. And I would really like to stop on this not having new thinking. So if you're just using AI to generate stuff that basically already exists, you are not innovating. So you can use AI as a partner for your creative brainstorming, as a partner who asks you get questions, give you suggestions, but you should be the one who is always leading that work. So don't just take stuff that AI is reproducing based on the data it has, but also create and innovate of your own. So remember, the stuff that AI is giving you already exists. Filter, question, refine what AI gives you. Prompt AI from multiple perspectives. This is a great way to reduce bias. So prompting it from different perspectives and different angles. Key insight for you to now know from the risks that we've talked about. So we've talked about bloated code, for example. We've talked about ignoring quality. We've talked about reproducing biases, believing hallucinations, etc., etc. And what I want you to take away from this risk is one thing: don't get lazy. If you outsource your thinking to AI too early and too often, you actually become really dependent on pattern matching. So as said, not actually having created anything new, but just on pattern matching that AI is doing for you. And you gradually even start hampering your skills, your cognitive capabilities, your analytical skills, your problem-solving skills. I know it can feel like such an easy way to go about it, but don't get lazy. This is the stuff that will make or break your skill set now or in the future. Struggle is good for learning. And as a practical summary from these risks and benefits, I would like to highlight that AI is really useful in tasks where speed matters, where exploration matters, where creative brainstorming matters, where search matters, where understanding matters. So there it's really, really good. But at this stage, at this moment, areas in which you need precision, you need quality, you need trust, such in the production code, AI is far less reliable. So always approach everything with a critical sense. Okay, now we have an overview of the perks, the risks. We also understand a bit of the state of tech jobs in Finland at the moment, and that there will be very many new tech hires, at least projected to be in 2030, the latest. So projected to be, not necessarily a hard fact. Let's look at now some skills that you could develop to help you succeed in the future. These are skills that I've compiled based on the conversations that I've had with the senior software engineers and team leads working at a variety of different companies. And these are the things I want you to now take note of. As said, I'm not going to go mega into details with all of these skills, but I just want you to take note of and then start exploring independently. First skill, PAM. Programming fundamentals. You probably figured out already that if you want to become that AI literate generalist, that AI savvy developer, you still need to understand the fundamentals of programming to assess AI, to use it smartly. So use your time to learn in any programming language. Learn R, learn JavaScript, learn C++, learn the fundamentals. So as I've said, AI can generate code, but it doesn't understand what it's building. And for you to build smartly, you need to understand how AI is building, what you're building, what is the goal, etc. So understand the data structures, for example, understand algorithms, understand memory, so that you're able to reason beyond what AI suggests. Programming fundamentals, learn those. With this skill, then you can explain why a certain solution works. You can evaluate and you can debug code. You can write it better. You can gain independence from frameworks and tools. And with this, I mean that you have the self-confidence and the independence to assess what AI is written, what tools have created for you, etc., etc. You stand on your own feet as a developer. Very important skill. So don't take the easy way. Learn the fundamentals first, start building yourself first, and then start using as much as possible new tools, new technologies, etc. But learn the fundamentals first. AI literacy and prompt engineering. So AI is basically like a tireless junior developer working in a new company. It has lots of speed, it has excitement, it has motivation. It can guarantee that, yes, I will do it, I will handle it, but it still lacks the insight and it lacks the awareness. So if you're a developer who can understand how AI works, what are the blind spots, what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, how to prompt it well, then you're going to have those good results. And how to prompt AI well, a few tips for you. So of course, first of all, be specific and detailed. So provide as much as detail as possible about the context, about the desired outcome, about the length, etc. So be detailed when you're creating a prompt. Use a clear structure, also super good tip for prompting in AI. So when you are writing instructions for AI, you can use, for example, dashes, you can use quotation marks to separate the context from the instructions as well. So what is important, what is not important, what should it focus on? Use hashtags, etc. So provide it structure. Also provided examples. So if you're able to provide some examples of the input-output behavior that you're looking for, provide examples that the AI can then use so you can train it better. And also, one very good tip is to ask AI to break it down, to break down the reasoning that it has, so that you're able to see what it is thinking in quotation marks, so what it is producing basically, and see how is that going logically. So that's also going to oftentimes give you a more accurate answer. All right. So with AI literacy, with prompt engineering, you're able to, for example, debug the AI outputs with a more critical lens. You're able to know when and where is it smart to use AI. You can critique it while needed. And with prompt engineering, so remember I said that AI creates the output, the text or the code, also based on the prompt that you have written. So the better the prompt, usually the more good quality the results. So learn how AI actually works. For example, take a short course like the elements of AI. Another important skill that I would encourage you to focus on or start learning is systems design and architecture. Now, this I think could be one of the most important skills. If you don't take anything else with you from this presentation, take systems design and architecture with you. This is the skills when I'm talking with, for example, AI people at Supercell or senior developers at another company, they're all highlighting systems design and architecture as a skill for a modern developer to have. So modern software is basically a web of interconnected systems. So there's technical architecture, there's data flow, there's human systems, everything is linked. And with technical architecture, I'm talking about, for example, front end, back end, APIs. With data, I'm talking about data collection, data storage. With human systems, I'm talking about decision-making processes, collaboration, etc. So on a high level, modern software development, it's interconnected. Everything is connecting together. There are these elements that create a system. And when you go one level a bit deeper, then on the technical architecture, you have elements that are connected to each other. So, and oftentimes the more elements you have, the more complex that system and that architecture it is, and more understanding it requires from your side. So AI can generate the components, the elements for systems, but it cannot at this stage design coherent systems, smart systems that actually scale, handle failure, or serve your specific business goals. So if you start learning systems design and architecture, you're able to understand entire products and not just single features. You're able to design more robust and scalable systems. You're able to make strategic technical decisions. As I said at the start of the presentation, the focus points of a developer's work are shifting. So now from this raw coding, we're shifting into the system thinking, we're shifting into applied problem solving, to architecture understanding. You become the connector. So systems design and architecture, if nothing else, write this down and start looking into it and start understanding it as much as possible. And one tangible way for you to start doing that is to pick a system that you use, Slack or Spotify, etc., and draw how you think it works. Draw the front end, draw the back end, draw the user flow, etc., and see how each part influences the other. So for example, if there's a change in the data schema, how it impacts the API, how it impacts the front end. So with the system design and with the system understanding, you're able to always see how these parts interact with each other. You're not looking just at single features. Data literacy, also super important skill for a developer to have in this modern world. So as you know, data gives us feedback. We understand users, we're able to measure performance, we're able to make decisions based on data. Everything at the end of the day should be going back to data and the insights we're getting from data. But if you're not able to interpret data, if you're not able to collect data, if you're not able to analyze data, you're actually building blindfolded, and you could be building stuff that doesn't even matter, that doesn't have actual correlation to your users, etc. So by being data literate, you're able to make better decisions, you're able to spot patterns before they come incidents, and you're able to understand the whole process of software development way better. So start brushing up your data skills. And I encourage you to start playing with real-world data sets. For example, go to Gaggle, and on Gaggle, they have lots of open data sets that you can start exploring and try to find a story, try to interpret that data, try to analyze that data. One really important skill as well, security awareness, and this relates to data so much. So software touches someone's data, if not all of the time, I would say most of the time. So someone's data could be personal information, could be business information, could be finance information, etc. And at the same time, the pace of building is becoming faster. And when we're moving really fast, it could be that we are prioritizing speed over efficiency or speed over good quality. So being aware about security is a very, very important skill. So a system, a program that you're creating is basically as strong as its weakest link. So if you have one careless log or one exposed API, that can lead to a lot of damage. So let's say that you have an AI assistant that writes the backend function from you, and it handles the passwords, but it stores them in plain text. And then somebody finds that database. So already a massive security breach. So you have to be aware of security when you're building. And start learning the basics over there. I would recommend for you to check out OWASP and their top 10 open source software projects for you to start. Product thinking and design thinking, once more, the higher level stuff that we're talking about. So AI can't decide what's worth building. It doesn't know. It doesn't understand your goals. It doesn't understand the problem. It just reproduces the stuff that it has already seen or it has been trained on. So that's why as a developer, for you to develop product thinking and design thinking are super essential. So with product thinking, you understand the purpose and value of what you're building. And with design thinking, you understand the people that you are building for. So you always have the users, you always have the value in mind when you are building. So you'll be able to ask better questions like, what is the problem that we are solving? And you're able to see the whole journey when you are building. So for example, before coding, before programming, you're able to redefine the problem that you're trying to solve. During programming, you're able to think about usability, accessibility, about the performance. And after building, you're able to check out, okay, what are the results? And you want to measure your success through data and through feedback, and you're not just focusing that, okay, something runs. So for example, if you're a front-end developer and you want to embed a form into a website, instead of focusing on, oh yeah, I embed this form into this website, you think of why the user would even come to this part of the website in the first place. So you consider the user experience and the user journey. So next time you start a project, write, for example, a one-page product brief for yourself. Who is this product for? What problem does it solve? And how will you know that it worked? How will you collect the data and how you will analyze and interpret that data? End-to-end ownership, super important skill for you to have as well, in addition to autonomy. So now with AI tools and with other technology as well, you are becoming more independent, and that means that you should take more responsibility. So modern teams really need developers who drive their own work. You don't wait for instructions. You don't wait for somebody to hold your hand. You manage your time. You make progress without constant supervision. You start exploring. You start looking at issues and try to solve them. So you take responsibility behind your assigned ticket, behind the task that you were given. You communicate with others proactively. You feel responsible about the user experience, not just the functionality. And you learn the full life cycle of a software. So from the idea to building to deploying, etc. So end-to-end ownership, really own the stuff that you are doing and be self-driven. This is something that I've talked with a C-level person operating at a very successful company, and they said that I really, really want to have more juniors who own their work, who have the autonomy, who don't just wait around for instructions. So here you can think of running, for example, small postmortems for you to develop this skill. So spend 10 minutes asking yourself, what went well, what broke, what did I learn? And then how can I take away those insights to the next project and start independently, for example, driving something. Proactive problem solving. So we are now, as you notice, we're moving into the soft skill department that is equally as important. So yes, AI can solve define problems, but it cannot yet see what is missing. It cannot foresee always failure, or it cannot connect the dots. So that's why in fast moving teams, especially, you need to be able to anticipate bottlenecks. You need to be able to prevent bugs, and you need to be able to have this mindset of I want to proactively solve problems instead of waiting to being told to do so. So one of the most harmful ways for you to negatively impact a team or negatively represent yourself is to be a problem pointer and not a problem solver. Everybody can be a problem pointer. I bet all of you listening now know at least one person who is just pointing at problems and is pointing out that this doesn't work, this should fix, somebody should this, somebody should do that, somebody should do this, etc. Don't be that person. If you want to have a successful career, if you want to be known as a reliable developer and a proactive problem solver who has, for example, leadership capabilities, be the one who spots those problems, starts working on them, invites others to help, and shares that journey. So be proactive. Oh, I already said that. Wow. So be a problem solver, not a problem pointer. And with this skill, you're able to do a bunch of things. You're able to produce so good results. You're able to flag risks early. You're able to use data and logs to spot patterns, etc., etc. So become a proactive problem solver, not the problem pointer. Here, one way to brush up this skill, do a pre-mortem at the start of your project. Ask if this project will fail in 3 months. Why? What are the likely reasons that it failed? And if you do spot those reasons or risks, try to solve them already. So thinking ahead. Adaptability, super, super important skill for you to develop. So frameworks and tools change, and AI is accelerating this change super, super fast. So while having a good insight and understanding of the fundamentals, you still need to be able to adapt and be curious about the world around you. So you have to see learning as a part of the job as technologies are changing. If you become, in your way of thinking, very narrow, if you think like, okay, I've used this tool and I've used this framework and they're the only ones I ever want to use because nothing else is as nice, then you're hurting yourself. So be ready to adapt. However, with the mindset of understanding the programming fundamentals and technical fundamentals. So with adaptability, I'm not saying that now go and learn 50 new tools without truly understanding how AI works, without truly understanding the logic of programming. With these skills, bunch of new stuff that you're able to do. You're able to try new tools without the fear of wasting time because you see that as an opportunity to grow your skills. You see that as an opportunity to learn, even if you don't end up using the tool. You take responsibility for your growth. You're like, okay, I want to use this framework or learn this framework because it helps me grow as a developer and as a professional. You share what you've learned with others because teaching others actually reinforces your own learning, and you become a lifelong learner. And that is the ultimate job security there is. Having a curious, adaptable mindset is the one that will future-proof your career because you learn how to teach yourself and you remember that learning happens also through struggle. So through struggle, through going through a variety of different parts, you become a lifelong learner because you want to do that work for yourself. So pick one familiar tech, pick one unfamiliar tech, pick one unfamiliar topic and build something small with it, either together with your colleague or with your friend. Reflect and share what you've learned. So adaptability is super important skill. Now, we've got an overview of the perks and risks with AI, and I've given you an insight into 9 skills I'm suggesting you to start developing today or tomorrow. As said, the goal wasn't that I would go mega deep into these skills, but I wanted for you to have an understanding and insight of what is it that employers or companies are looking for. And I know that it can sound frustrating to give a skill like proactive problem solving or adaptability. How do I develop that? But those are things that you really, really need to start becoming aware of. And when you're already aware of proactive problem solving and not being a problem pointer, that is already guiding you to the right direction. And I suggest that you start asking from others, how could you develop skills in adaptability? How could you develop skills in end-to-end ownership? But keep these in mind because these meta skills, these soft skills, their importance will grow even more as the profile of a developer is shifting. So important skills, and really once more highlighting also systems design and architectural understanding. Those are the stuff that I recommend you start focusing on. And now, for the last 10 minutes or so, I want to explain to you what the hell is Hive Helsinki. So I said that I work as the community and partnership lead at Hive. What is Hive? What we've done, what kind of careers our students have had, and how can you apply? For the next 10 minutes or so, we're going to have a wild ride. So hold on tight as we're going to move into it. So Hive, why we exist? So we exist that we're training modern developers with a high quality, intensive and inclusive education that is adaptable. And so that this mission just doesn't sound like a bunch of fancy words, I'm going to break it down into 2 parts. So I mentioned the word word modern software developer. And all of this is related to many of the things I just said previously. So we exist to train generalists. We exist to train modern software developers. For Hive, the point is not to learn a specific technical stack or a specific technical skills. The point is to grow into a problem solver and to have generalist skills and the generalist mindset as well. And what we're talking and what we're referring to when we're saying about generalist skills and the mindset, we're referring to these skills: autonomy, adaptability, end-to-end ownership, creative problem solving, resilience, collaboration, responsibility, project and time management, and then lastly, the technical skills. So for us, the profile of a developer is so much more than technical skills. And the reason we exist to train these kind of developers is that we want them to be able to have secured futures, and we want them to be able to be ready to adapt to the world around us. So it's just not the technical skills, but it's so many things around it as well. And based on the previous slides, I assume that you are now connecting the dots of why we exist to train these kind of developers. One thing that I also want to elaborate on, so I said the word inclusive, and with inclusive, we mean that our program is open for anybody who has turned 18 years old to apply. So anybody who has turned 18 years old and you have a valid residence permit in Finland, you are able to apply to our program. However, disclaimer, this is not a suitable program for everyone or every life situation. The studies are demanding, they are intense, they are very, very different to traditional schooling, and they're also on site. We believe in face-to-face interaction. So even though the world around us could be hybrid or remote, during our study program, our students come to campus and they work together face-to-face. So you have to be ready to commit to our program. Now let's go a bit more deeper. So we are, in a nutshell, a nonprofit foundation, and that nonprofit foundation is running a free private programming school. And we are offering studies worth of 10,000 euros completely free of charge, no strings attached. Our study program lasts 18 months only. That's why I said it's intensive. So it's short, it's intensive, it packs basically many years worth of education into 18 months. And it's also self-driven learning. So you lead your own progress. We don't have a single teacher or a single staff member who will come in every day to check up on you, but you will have to lead your studies and your progress. Luckily, you don't have to do it alone. So the studies at Hive are community-based. You learn together with others. Everything is based on collaboration. We've eliminated all sense of competition from our studies and also from our application period. Why? Because modern teens don't compete against each other. I don't compete against my colleagues. So that's why there is no competition at Hive. Instead, you work together, you share knowledge, you teach others, you ask questions from others. So you work all together in a community. And you also learn by doing, because the studies are project-based. You are given a set of projects and you start working on those. You Google, you watch videos, you ask AI, you figure things out by solving practical problems together with others. As said, they are on-site on campus, so they are not hybrid, they are not remote. It's all about working together. It's all about having cups of coffee, playing ping pong, participating in events, etc., etc. So on-site studies. In addition, the studies are full-time, so you would have to show up several days a week. However, there is lots of flexibility as our campus is open 24/7 every single day of the year. So it's up to you to decide what days of the week you are showing up, as long as you are showing up. Here are the two key partners who are supporting our foundation. So Supercell and Osuuspankki are two companies who believe in this mission, who believe in our foundation and donate to our foundation so that we're able to give the studies free of charge. How you learn at Hive, very quick overview into this. So this is the study program that we have at Hive. You start with a 3-week student selection on campus, no competing against each other. You learn the fundamentals of programming together and you have fun along the way. If you're selected into the studies, and the selection criteria is very vast, we don't select people based on just who is the best or who is the fastest. We're looking at a multiple different things. If you're selected, then you will start your 18 months of studies at Hive. And after that, it's time to start exploring the job market or even start your own companies. So 3 weeks and 18 months, and then the job hunt. And Hive is also there to support you during job hunt through mentoring programs, events, and activities. This is roughly the curriculum broken into 3 pieces. So the first part is programming fundamentals. Then the second part is application development, where you put those fundamentals into the real world tests. And then you start working on advanced topics. And here are some of the technical skills that you will develop during your studies at Hive, from data structures to backend and API to DevOps and systems administration. So a large variety of different things covered. For us, the community is really at the heart of the school. So everything is based on the community and how the community is doing. We have events and activities, we do excursions, and practically every week we have a company or a guest speaker hosting a workshop, hosting a masterclass, hosting a hackathon. So for us, facilitating these industry connections is super, super important. Also, we want to give an opportunity for people aspiring to be entrepreneurs. So the studies at Hive really build an entrepreneurial mindset. With each project, you have to problem solve, you have to lead your own work. That is why we are creating and have already created an entrepreneurship event track, where you will get to participate in masterclasses, hackathons, and challenges to lead your skills in entrepreneurship and develop them further. And you also have an opportunity to do a startup projects at the end of your studies. Very quickly, going into the careers our students have had. So 100 different employers, companies operating in Finland have hired our students. So from Supercell to Osuuspankki to Nokia to CGI to Volt to F-Secure, they've all hired our hivers. And here are some of the most common titles that our students have had. So software developer, junior developer, and software engineer, but there have been many other titles as well, from cloud architects to test automation engineers to game programmer interns. So with these generalist skills and the mindset, you're able to break into many different industries. And very lastly, the practicalities. So financing the studies, you are able to get Kela student benefits for Hive studies, regardless if you've received Kela student benefits for any of your previous studies. And Kela has now approved our new updated curriculum, and you can get the Kela benefits for the studies. And also, we have employment services offering unemployment benefits for over 25-year-old job seekers. So these are 2 ways for you to finance the studies. If you're interested in finding out more, here is our applicant journey. Go to our website, hive.fi, to do our online game, then participate in a check-in event where you will have more information about Hive. Then is the 3-week selection period on campus, student selection, and then our studies start. So as a recap, free of charge, project-based and community-based, full-time commitment, progress-oriented, 18 months, and on-site. That's it. Bang on the puck. It's 1 o'clock. Oh my God, I made it. Fantastic. So that's it on my behalf. We will share this presentation later on to all of you. Big thanks for being here. I understand that many of you have now places to go. Other than that, if you still have the time, please go ahead and write text, questions, comments on the chat. Feel free to connect me on LinkedIn, Salla Uusitalo. Super happy to talk with you over there. Feel free to send us a message, info@hive.fi. Check out our website, and I wish you a fantastic, amazing weekend. And if you have any other comments or input for me, feel free to write it on chat or then send me a message on LinkedIn or via email. But thank you, everybody.